So welcome to this week's video newsletter. This week I wanted to follow on a little bit from what I talked about in last week's video newsletter around motivation. You know, having motivation on the path to recovery, as we talked about, is such a key thing, especially in being able to sustain some of the protocols and programs and really working on ourselves in the ways that often we need to on the recovery path. But this may sound in some ways contradictory to that, but I'll explain a little in a moment about how this kind of ties together. But part of this is also making sure that we're doing things that we're doing just because we love to do them. Doing things that we're doing because they're fun, because they nurture us. You know, otherwise what happens is our whole focus becomes on getting better, getting well, and we start to forget the reasons why we're wanting to get well. The things that really just bring us joy, bring us pleasure. I don't know if you can hear it as I'm talking actually at home in my apartment outside. You can hear some kids playing in the street. Perfect timing. Had sirens last time, kids playing this time, but nonetheless, part of what maybe that does is remind us of what it's like to be a child. To kind of have that childlike wonder and anticipation. I don't know if you remember being a child on Christmas Eve, but one of the things I used to do was kind of try and find where the presents were hidden, kind of sneak a look, but then put it back together so no one can see that that's what I've been doing. But you see, the difficulty is also that if we're not doing things that nurture us, things that give us that sense of play and fun, then after a while, the childlike part of us, that by the way as adults we all still have, that childlike part of us starts to take over. And I'm sure you've had the experience of doing some kind of program where you're being really, really disciplined. And then a day comes along where it's like the discipline's just not there. And maybe it was pre-ME, you were trying to do a weight loss program, and then you found yourself with a chocolate cake already in your mouth. And it almost feels like a childlike part of us is sabotaging what's happening. And this also happens on the recovery path. Really disciplined and diligent and all the things we're supposed to do, and then we find ourselves one day vegging out, which is completely crap tail, which by the way has its place. But my point is that if that childlike part of us, which is sometimes called the inner child or the soul child, but if that childlike part of us is not being nurtured, if we're not also listening to that part of us and giving it some of the things that it wants, then after a while it's going to force us, like a child will, to get its needs met. So a great way of supporting yourself in staying motivated, and actually also, by the way, a great way of shifting from your head of the more kind of intellectual kind of way of approaching things into yourself, into your feelings, is giving that childlike part of you more of a voice. And that may be through doing creative things, so that may be through doing stuff with paint. So if I remember when we were speaking to Joy Knight on Secret to Recovery, on her recovery stories, also in the Secret to Recovery book, that she used to make cards for people. She used to love the creative process of doing that. It may be playing music. You know, in the Freedom from ME DVD, Lindsay Oliver, one of the things on her recovery path, one of the key things actually, was discovering her love for the double bass. I remember she says in the film that it was like she was a double bass, it chose her. That it gave her that sense of joy and passion and play. You know, Paul Young, he made the DVD. You know, his great passion was making film, making short films, and now getting into making feature-length films. But it's finding things that we do because we love them. And it could be anything from watching movies that uplift us, to listening to music, to being creative. You know, for me, my great love was psychology, which was helpful, considering that, so I had to work through my recovery path, and also what I then got on to do in my career. But that was my great love. You know, it's creating an environment which is supportive to us. You know, that again, that those parts of us feel held, feel supported. You know, I'm kind of very lucky that I live in a beautiful apartment in North London. It's not hugely expensive. You know, I'm kind of lucky in something that's big, but it's very beautiful. I live in a converted church, and it feels very nourishing. It feels very nurturing. You know, in many years of my recovery path, I wasn't able to have that kind of, I guess, support in my environment. But I used to do what I could of what I had. You know, even if it was just create a little kind of relaxation area. You know, I deliberately made my desk when I was studying and I was struggling to do that, a really comfy place to be. The most comfortable chair I had was at my desk. But I'm kind of off subject here, but I guess part of what I'm saying is that looking at how we can have that play, but also how we can nurture ourselves as we would nurture a child, makes a big, big difference. So maybe next time you're struggling with following through, maybe on the last week since the last of these video newsletters, then maybe you were really motivated in the last few days, maybe that's been slipping. And if that's been the case, look at what you could be doing. There's play, rewards, things your inner child. Go and do some of those things. Go and have some fun. And maybe comment on this blog, or something I haven't been saying, but comment on the blog, maybe what you've been doing, the play, fun thing that you've been doing. And let us know how you've got on with doing that. And I look forward to speaking with you again next week.